What's up, everybody, and welcome to my episode that I have chosen to dedicate solely on snare drums. All right, snare drums have some extra steps, some extra bits and pieces, and they work differently than your normal rack tom or your floor tom. So we're going to get right into that. As you can see, the drum already has everything off of it. It's been cleaned. So my first step is always to get right into relubing your threaded inserts, or in this case, tube lugs. So as you may have seen, I have chosen to put quite a bit more lithium grease in these tube lugs than I would normally put in like a tom or something like that. Well, that's because this is kind of cheap hardware. So this is a snare drum that I built pretty much start to finish, and it doesn't thread down the best. It doesn't stay in tune as easily, and I actually did drill some of these a little bit wonky. Hey, I'm no woodworker, all right? But I do absolutely love the sound that comes out of this drum. It's beautiful, that's why I love to use it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on this head install. So we're going to start with the bottom head, the Reso head. That is a Reso. All right. And for this drum, again, I am using Evans. And for this drum specifically, I'm using the Snare Side 300. Again, it's like a straight down the middle, perfect drum head for the type of music I like to play. It's pretty well rounded. For this one, I like to line it up kind of off center, so right there in the middle, looking pretty great. And then I'll do the same thing I do on every other drum. Put that hoop on there. As you can see, these hoops are even like all wonky. So we'll line that up the best we can. And perfect-ish. So next step, as always, thread in your tension rods. All right. Now you're gonna run them down till they're all touching. Everything's pretty much touching. We'll go ahead and try to get it as finger tight as possible with the. All right. Now for this one, I'm going to start using the X cross star method, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna go around the drum, probably give them all like half a turn. All right, so for 10 lug drums, it's easy to go in more of a cross pattern back and forth. So what you can do is you can start here to here. You can skip 2 lugs. Go here, and then here. Skip 2 lugs until you've made your full revolution. So as you can see, we got some wrinkle buildup over here. So with a normal snare drum, you shouldn't have to worry about that as much. However, it is worth noting that here on a snare drum is quite different than other toms because the bearing edge has what's called a snare bed cut into it. So effectively, your snare side head bearing edge isn't straight. So around this area, it's actually going to dip down like that and create a bed for the snares to sit level. Some drums will have a really narrow bed, some will have a large bed. These have a fairly large bed. I usually like using 30 strand snare wires on this. I'm going with 20 this time just for the snappiness. So usually you'll have to focus more on the lugs near the snare bed area. I've got it 1/2 turn. We've reached a full turn. All right, so this is where snares get a little tricky. Snares are essentially the same as toms, right? So it's still a batter head and a resonant head reflecting the sound or the air pressure back to the other side. All right, so it's gonna function similar to a tom. All right, obviously these things are shorter. This drum happens to be a 14 by 6.5 inch. However, because of the what the snare is, it's supposed to be treated a little differently. So there's a few different schools of thoughts. Actually, there's a million schools of thoughts out there for the snare side head. However, what I found over the years is that cranking it down pretty far is going to get you exactly where you need to be. It's going to give you the responsiveness, it's going to get you the sound you want, and it's going to get you the snappiness of your snares. We're going to take this thing down pretty damn far, okay? So we're going to crank it down almost to tabletop tight, almost to where you're like, man, I feel like I'm going to break this thing. That's absolutely normal, all right? So just keep going, and you're going to get to where it's a good place for your snare drum. So we've done one full turn around. We're going to go back around and do another half a turn at a time until we get to 2 full turns. At a certain point, it might feel like your lugs are about to break. Trust me, completely normal. That's what snares are supposed to do. So you can hear that. It's high, but still pretty low, honestly, for a snare drum. So one more time around, half a turn, which will give us 2 full turns around the drum. It's best in the beginning of this process, if you're trying to keep the head even all the way around when you're going up, is to check the pitch kind of early in the process to make sure everything's going up evenly. The snare drum, some people say it doesn't matter. I think it matters once you get to your final product, making sure everything is similar in tone. That way you get a nice even sound across the drum. So we're going to see where we're at right now. We're going to go around another, say, quarter turn. See what we get to. All right, everything's pretty relative in pitch. Let's see where that gets us. All right, so now, similarly to all the other drums, turn her over. We're going to start the lithium grease. And then go to our batter head. So for the batter, this time I've noticed that this drum responds really well to a 1-ply batter head. So I've gone with the UV1 coated, but the coating doesn't flake away after you've used it for a while. So we're going to line that up kind of where the other one was. Hoop on. Tension rods. Okay. All the tension rods are in. Get them all touching. Okay. Everything's touching. Finger tight. As tight as you can. Okay. Line everything up. We're going to seat the head. Check to make sure everything's still pretty finger tight. All right, I'm going to go around, get everything half a turn. Okay. Pretty damn low. Okay, so for snare drums, it's really up to you what kind of sound you want. You can either go here for intervals between the top and the bottom, or you can use this method I'm about to use right now, where I'm just going to crank everything down and see where we get to and adjust from there. That's kind of like how I like to do it. So I like to make sure I get the response and the tone that I want out of the drum, and then I'll experiment from there depending on the drum. So we're going to crank this thing up. Maybe not as much as the bottom, but we're going to crank it up. All right, see where we're at on our lugs. Still got some low end to it. You want to go another half a turn. So you may hear the glue cracking on this tiny bit. Perfectly normal and absolutely fine. We're going to check the lugs one more time and then check the final pitch of the drum. That's beautiful. So I think that's going to be, it's going to make for a perfect snare sound. So the last step is going to be putting on your actual snares themselves. So I'm going to use the Evans PureSounds Custom Pros. I like using these because they've got, it's bent here on the edge, so it contacts the drum even more flat than a normal snare set would. Additionally, it comes with these little clips, which I think is easy for when you want to tune later. You can just pop these bad boys off, pull your snares off, and then do any maintenance you got to do. I love it. So prior to me starting this video, when I clean the drum, I like to position everything snare strainer and snare system wise to where it's exactly where I need it to be when I'm starting this process. So what I mean by that is I've taken the this side right here, you used the adjustment knob on, and I've taken it to about halfway. That gives you a lot of wiggle room each side whenever you're coming to your final snare adjustment. Your butt plate, same way, kind of position it in the middle, and for this particular butt plate I'm using the DW3 position, so you got, you know, you can do snare fully on, or sorry, snare tight, snare regular, and then snare super loose. Snare right in the center. You run your straps through. And what I like to do is put the little like diaper clip on there. Pull that down flat. And then as you can see, as you may be able to see, is I've loosened my butt plate screws, so I can just put this right through there. Okay, then you're going to position it right about there, so you're going to make sure everything's right in the middle. So that looks about perfect to me. All right. Same thing with the other side. I'm going to start, kind of do this, and then pull it through. What I normally do just to get a good starting position is to kind of tighten these just enough to where they're holding on to the strap. So not super tight, but not super loose. Enough so there's some, so it's got some grab on it, but it's also got some give. All right, so what I like to do is I will pull it as tight as you can go. Well, not like super tight, but pull it pretty tight on there. And then I will snap your snare strainer down. And that's where it'll stay for me. Okay, and then I'll tighten these down. Normally when you complete this step, you should be able to hold your drum up and there should be some gap there. So they're not really touching. So that's how I know it's pretty good. Then you can run it, you can tighten it until you hear the snares stop moving. There you go. All right. Now, get yourself a snare. All right, so you got a little bit of snares moving around still, so tighten them a little tiny bit more. So that, damn good sound. We're gonna set it up on a stand here with a mic. So there you have it. Pretty good all around snare sound for pretty much any kind of music. This tuning method is, again, like my tom tuning methods, a really good starting point to get you where you want to be. Similar to the toms, the bottom head, as long as it is pitched up to where it needs to be, you could pretty much put the batter head at any point and it's going to sound amazing. So you could tune this thing down low, you could do a mid tuning kind of where this is, or you could even do a super high pitched tuning. This wraps up the snare tuning episode. If you like what you saw here, please consider subscribing. And if you guys want to see any other types of maybe like deep dive tuning videos with the snares, or me tuning different types of snares, like maybe my piccolo or something that's got more depth to it, please let me know in the comments. As for the snare drum, so I mentioned that I built this thing from scratch. The only thing that it's lacking is a name. So if you guys have any suggestions for names, down in the comments, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you stopping by. Keep experimenting with your tuning. See you next time.